you hesitate. Go put your records on. Tell me your favorite song. You go ahead, let your head down. Sapphire and faded jeans. I hope you get your dreams. Just go ahead, let your head down. You're gonna find yourself somewhere, somehow. Blue as the sky, sunburned and lonely, sipping tea in a bar by the roadside. Just relax, just relax. Don't you let those other boys fool you. Gotta love that afro hairdo. Maybe sometimes.
Hello and welcome back to Bookmark Chronicles. Today I'm doing my February wrap-up. As most of you know, I don't participate in readathons because I don't always like the prompts that come with it, but I did loosely participate in Blackathon and read only books by Black authors this month. If you have not yet seen my Diverse Reads video, I highly suggest that you check it out. I just want to take this time to remind people that just because Black History Month is over does not mean that you should stop supporting the work of Black authors. It's performative and it's doing more harm than good. If you want to know more, you can check that video out. The first book that I read this month was A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole. As y'all know, I struggle with romance and this one wasn't really any different. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't really love it. In this, we follow Naledi Smith, who is a grad student who keeps receiving emails that she is betrothed to an African prince. Naturally, she assumes it's a scam, so she ignores them, but the prince is real and he's come to New York to find her. So I really like the main characters in this. I really like the storyline. However, there were certain things that certain characters did that just really irritated me, and certain tropes that I just can't stand. I am interested to continue with the series, so I will read A Duke by Default, which I believe is the next one. I could be wrong about that. But again, I didn't hate it, and that's the best we can hope for at this point. So I rated this 3.25 stars. The next book that I read was Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is the first time that I've read anything by Tiffany D. Jackson, but I knew that she had a reputation for ripping out hearts and stomping on them. That's what I expected, and that's exactly what I got. In this, we follow Claudia, who is trying to figure out where her friend Monday has gone because she hasn't come to school in a few days. She hasn't come to visit her like she always does, but nobody is telling her anything, and it doesn't really seem like anybody's looking for her. This book made me feel so many things, and when I did my February TBR, I mentioned that maybe this would be the book that makes me cry, and it absolutely did. And the thing about it is that you can probably guess what's going to happen at the end. That is not even the sad part. There are so many more layers to this story that are added in that I just wasn't expecting, and it really is a hard-hitting book. One of the blurbs on the back says a mesmerizing punch in the gut story, and that's from Laurie House Anderson, who wrote Speak, which is another hard-hitting but very real story. So if you've read Speak and enjoyed how real and raw that story is, then this is probably another one that you will like. I rated this 4.75 stars. The next book that I read was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I am so sad to say that I hated this. It was not at all what I expected, and frankly, I was really let down. In this, we follow Amira, who is a babysitter for a white family. One night something happens and they ask Amira to take the girl that she babysits out of the house because they're dealing with a situation and they just don't want her to see everything that's going on. So Amira takes this little girl to a store. They're just walking around and this random person accuses Amira of kidnapping the little girl. So it turns into a big deal when really it didn't need to be. And while I was reading, I was confused because that's what the synopsis is about. The synopsis is about that incident in the store, and then obviously the story continues from there. However, everything that's talked about in the synopsis happens in like chapter 1, and then it's over, like moving on. And I was really confused because I was like, I don't really know where this is going. So I saw another booktuber describe this as a book to teach white people about racism, and to be honest, it doesn't even do that. There are so many moments in here that should have been called out and they just weren't. So all of these racist things are happening and the main character is just letting it slide. Like, none of it made sense. I kept expecting her to start calling people out and start standing up for herself, but she never did. And so I just really couldn't get into the story because I was so confused. I hated the main character. She's terrible. And I'm just really not sure what the purpose of it was meant to be. And there were a few plot twists along the way, however, they weren't really exciting. Like, you could kind of predict how things were gonna turn out, and then everything just fell flat. Nothing was exciting, so I only rated this 2 stars. The next book that I read was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. In this, we follow 2 twins, Desiree and Stella. They live in a town where the community is Black, but everyone is very fair-skinned. So at one point, the twins decide they don't want to be in this town anymore. They run away, and eventually they go on separate paths. One twin decides to pass for white, while the other one continues to live as a Black woman. We do a time jump where both of the twins are adults and have their own families, and we see their paths cross as well as the paths of their daughters cross. So it was a really interesting multi-generational story. I read Passing last month, and it's very similar to that story. If you're into that brand of historical fiction, then this is a really good one. While I enjoyed reading this and I enjoyed seeing what was going to happen, I didn't feel connected to any of the characters really. For some reason, I wasn't super invested in them. So while I did enjoy it, I didn't love it as much as I had hoped, and I rated it 3.5 stars. The next book that I read was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I love Trevor Noah as a person. He's hilarious. I love watching The Daily Show. It's such a great show, especially now, because you want to be informed, you want to know what's going on in the world, but if you watch it with Trevor, he kind of makes it funny and it's a little bit easier to deal with. So while I do have a physical copy of this, I ended up listening to the audiobook for the most part because he narrates it, and in my opinion, that is the best way to listen to any biography or memoir. So I really love listening to him tell it, and I also really enjoyed that it's very informative. As an American, we don't learn a lot about apartheid, so it's very informative as well as being a little bit funny because Trevor is a comedian. So if Trevor Noah is someone that you like, then I would recommend reading this. Personally, reading about people that I'm interested in is how I got into biographies and memoirs in the first place, but I really enjoyed reading and listening to this, and I highly recommend it for anyone who is even the slightest bit interested in his life. I rated this 5 stars. The next book that I read was Ray Bear by Jordan E. Fuego. I have been wanting to read this for such a long time, and I'm so glad that I finally did. This book is absolutely worth all the hype that it's been getting. When I finished it, all I could say was wow. Like, it's just so fucking good. I did a blended read of this, so I did follow along with the book, but I also listened to the audiobook. And a part of the reason that I wanted to do that is because with the African-inspired world, I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the correct pronunciation of everything. There is a glossary in the end that has a list of words as well as names of characters and the realms where they come from. So I did really appreciate that. The world in this is so intricate and beautiful and so well done. Let me back up. In this, we follow Tari Sai, a young girl who has been raised in isolation. While she has servants and doesn't want for anything, what she wants the most is human contact and affection. She knows of her mother and calls her the lady, but she only sees her every few years, so she's growing up without that parental figure, and that's the thing that she wants most in the world. The lady comes to visit and tells her that she's going to be sent to the capital of Eretz Zar so that she can join the prince's council. However, once she is anointed, she demands that Tari Sai kills the crown prince. Naturally, that's not something that Tari Sai would want to do. However, there is some magic behind it, and she's compelled to obey that command. Like I said, such a beautiful story. The world is amazing. I don't think I have ever taken so many notes for just one book because there's so many things going on, but in the best possible way. It's not like a lot going on where it's overwhelming. It's a lot going on, but pieces are being woven together bit by bit. If you're interested in fantasy at all, then I highly recommend this. I gave this 5 stars. The last book that I read this month was Chocolate Covered Murder by Nicole Reese. This one was kind of a last minute addition. I was on Instagram and Jashana had done a review of it, and she was talking about how it's a super quick novella. It's like true crime mixed with romance, sort of, but it was very short and it's part of a holiday themed collection. So I decided to give it a try, and it's about this woman named Brianna who gets coerced into going to this single and sexy weekend thing where it's like speed dating and there's like a singles dinner and all this stuff. But while she's there, someone ends up getting murdered. And the funny thing about it is, I had just finished binge watching Criminal Minds. I watched 15 seasons in about 2.5 months. I was really into it, in case you couldn't tell. And I finished it and I was like, I don't know what to do with my life now. So Shoshana was talking about this book. I decided to give it a try. And page 2, what do you know? The main character is making a Criminal Minds reference. So obviously I was thrilled. So while I did enjoy the mystery aspect of it, I didn't love the romance. It is a novella, so it's only like 47 pages or something like that. So it was like super insta-lovey, and y'all know how I feel about insta-love. It's not for me. So while I did enjoy it as a short, quick read and just something to do, I didn't really love it. There was also a character that I really hated. So unfortunately, I only gave it 2.75 stars. And I don't think that I'm going to continue with the rest of the series. I did look at the next one and it's about a completely different couple, which to me means more insta-love, and I just know that it's not going to be for me. So instead, I'm going to start looking into this author's full-length novels, and hopefully that'll be more up my alley. So those are all of the books that I read in February. Let me know if you have read any of these, if any of these are on your TBR. I am so excited for the finale to Raybearer. I hope it comes out later this year. I know there was a cover release. I did not see a publication date though, so super excited about that. But let me know what you all have read this month. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you in the next video.